There is a love that walks unshod through alleyways, that kneels beside beds in shelters, that listens without needing to speak. It does not parade itself or ask for applause. It moves quietly through the world like breath, invisible but essential. This love does not begin with what is deserved, but with what is needed. It does not wait to be recognized. It shows up where others have stopped looking. The poor and forgotten are not always the ones we expect. They live on the streets and under bridges, yes, but also in corner offices where no one knows their name. They sit at lunch tables alone, are passed over for promotions, and dismissed as too much or not enough. They include the elderly in nursing homes with no visitors, foster children who age out of the system without ever finding a home, prisoners whose families have turned their backs, addicts whom the world has tired of helping, and immigrants who work in silence, holding up cities while living in fear. They are the mentally ill who speak in ways that others cannot follow, the physically disabled whose dreams are overlooked, and the single mothers working 3 jobs without childcare. They are those who carry grief so heavy their backs are bowed, the veterans whose minds remain at war, and the students who fail, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack someone to believe in them. This love walks into these spaces and does not flinch. It is not afraid of mess. It washes feet, not just in ritual, but in reality. It sees not only what is, but what could be, and speaks to the soul's dignity even when the world refuses to see it. This love remembers those the world forgets, and its memory is long and faithful. It is found in the lives of saints who gave everything for those who had nothing. Saint Damien of Molokai chose exile among lepers, sharing their disease and their isolation to offer them dignity. Saint Mother Teresa walked the streets of Calcutta cradling the dying, not because she could save them from death, but because she could witness their worth. Saint Vincent de Paul restructured the Church's care for the poor, not as an act of pity, but of deep justice. Catholic teaching affirms this mission. The Catechism states that the Church's love for the poor is a part of her constant tradition, CCC 2444. The poor are not a footnote in theology, they are its center. Christ himself was born into poverty, lived without a place to lay his head, and died outside the city walls like a criminal. He did not redeem from a distance. He joined the ranks of the forgotten. Social doctrine teaches the preferential option for the poor, not because the poor are better, but because they are more vulnerable. Justice demands not equal treatment, but equitable support. The kingdom of heaven is not a meritocracy. It is a place where the last are first because they have so often been left behind. The psychological toll of neglect is severe. Studies show that being ignored or excluded lights up the same brain regions as physical pain. Chronic poverty alters brain chemistry, limiting executive functioning and emotional regulation. To be forgotten is not a neutral experience. It scars the identity. But healing can begin with presence. Presence means more than proximity. It means acknowledgement. The turning of a face, the speaking of a name, the eye contact that says, "You exist." This love does not need credentials. It is found in soup kitchens and prison ministries, in teachers who buy supplies with their own money, in neighbors who shovel sidewalks for the elderly, in nurses who sit a little longer with the dying. This love is also a mirror. It reflects not just the person in need, but the person we are called to become. It teaches us that we are not saviors, but servants. That proximity to suffering does not contaminate us, it sanctifies us. That true greatness is found not in how far we rise, but in how far we're willing to stoop. The gospel calls this love the narrow road. It is not efficient, it is not always productive, but it is transformational. It rewrites the value systems of the world and insists that the unseen are in fact the ones most seen by God. In sociology, we speak of structural invisibility, the way certain populations are excluded not by accident but by design. They are left out of policymaking, underrepresented in media, and overrepresented in prisons. Loving them is not just about compassion, it's about correcting injustice. To love the forgotten is to challenge the systems that make them so. It is to vote with conscience, to give not just from excess, but from essence. It is to question why wealth is hoarded and poverty criminalized. It is to open not just wallets, but homes, and not just homes, but hearts. Such love is liturgical. It has rhythms. It shows up at baptisms and burials, graduations and goodbyes. It does not tire because it draws its strength from a deeper well. This well is not drained by giving, it is replenished by it. We see this in the writings of Pope Francis, who calls the Church to be a field hospital, close to wounds, not protected from them. He challenges us to smell like the sheep, to descend from comfort into the places where pain is real. He writes, "The worst discrimination which the poor suffer is the lack of spiritual care." Evangelii Gaudium 200. This love listens before it speaks. It does not assume, it does not rush to fix. It sits in silence when there are no words and sings when silence is too heavy. It brings bread to the hungry, but also brings recipes and dignity and a place at the table. It sees the refugee not as a problem, but as a bearer of gifts. It sees the prisoner not as a danger, but as someone whose story is not over. It sees the elderly not as burdens, but as keepers of wisdom. It sees the addict not as weak, but as someone still showing up to fight. Such love is not reserved for saints. It is practiced by bus drivers who wait an extra second, by counselors who take one more call, by volunteers who fold blankets, sweep floors, and offer eye contact. It lives in the ordinary, and in this ordinariness is power. For when the poor and forgotten are seen, heaven comes near. The veil between this world and the next thins. And we remember that we too have known poverty, in spirit, in emotion, in self-worth. The love that reaches for the forgotten reaches for us all. It tells us, you are not what you lack. You are not your worst moment. You are not invisible. You are not alone. This is the love that builds cathedrals, not of stone, but of people. It does not burn out, though the world tries to extinguish it. It does not retreat, though it is often rejected. It remains. And where it remains, the forgotten are forgotten no longer.